Welcome to the Calzone. Ben and Brian, normal guys hanging out, talking about yeah, kind of, huh? Yeah. I'm rocking the mustache pretty hard today. I'm gonna try to grow it past my lower lip.
Yeah, you'll love that.
Yeah, and then maybe even cut it so I look like I get the walrus look.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
I'm thinking about that.
Totally.
Anyway, let's talk about mortgage applications.
Yeah.
Killer segue. Brian, I feel like I've been talking with a lot of people who don't feel like they're ready or don't feel like they're in the right place to purchase. So they don't even go down the right path. They don't even go down the path of talking with a lender. They might be kicking the tires on looking at houses, but they're not talking with a lender yet.
Yeah, that is how a lot of people do that, right? They kick the tires by just getting on Zillow or getting online and going, oh, hey, look.
I think you actually had a call this morning that probably went pretty close to that.
Yeah.
And going through like mortgage calculators or Googling mortgage calculator or something like that, or going through the site on Zillow that's like, what's this going to cost me per month?
Yeah.
Those numbers they could be close, but oftentimes they're wildly
they assume
out
like
of
a
touch.
20 to 25% down payment and then you've got a 760 credit score.
Right. And they also assume property tax. The property taxes are way inflated.
They calculate for California.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
we're Nevada.
What I'd like to do is talk about kind of how that conversation goes, because I know, we've been working together for a long time. I know if someone has some questions, we can hook them up with you. They talk to you for a few minutes, 10, 15 minute phone conversation.
Yeah. And
after that conversation, they're either super ready to go or they know which direction they need to go to get ready. Right.
Yeah.
So can you take us through?
Can I ask a quick question that's
going
to help segue into this? What would you guys say? I just wrote down a couple, but what would you guys say, because we're talking about kicking the can down the road, what is the buyer's biggest fear with a credit app? Right? I mean, I know we use the term credit app.
Pull.
Right? So
it's the actual credit pull every time.
There is a credit pull. So if I fill out an application, you guys are going to pull my credit.
Yep.
Okay. The other thing that I wrote down is like my history, right? Like I got to disclose this stuff to somebody.
Yeah.
Right. And so maybe speak to that a little bit.
Yeah.
And because, right, like I'm trying to think about like, what's this buyer? Why are they kicking the can down the road? Right.
Yeah.
What's going on in their mind at that point? And like, what's it this is stopping you from we're talking about starting the process, right? Yeah. We're not talking about contracts. We're not talking about selling homes. We're not talking about buying homes. I'm like, this is like, what's going on?
So
right?
it is actually a great segue, because that's actually where my head's at every time I get on the phone with someone, right? So the biggest deal is, first we want to establish rapport, right? And talk to them, figure out a little bit about them. But really...
Hi, I'm Brian. What's your favorite color?
That's how I start. What's your favorite number between 1 and 1,000? Go.
Name your top 5 favorite lakes.
No, so, we chit-chat for a minute or two, and then, we start delving into that history. Like, what do you do for a living? How long have you been there? How long have you been in the field? Where were you before? Asking all of those types of questions, because generally if someone doesn't have an issue that's credit related, right, it'll be something that came up in their history. So my big portion of that 10-minute conversation is trying to identify red flags that is going to stop this person from purchasing a home today. Mm-hmm. What is there that we're looking out for, right? And so my whole goal is to just dig, right, and find out as much about the person as I can in those 10 to 15 minutes. And then if it's like, hey, we got great work history, we've been at the same employer a year or 2 years and in the field for 5, then it's okay. Well, what do you have for, monthly, obligations? What do you have for credit card payments, student loans, and car payments? Those are the big 3, really. And most of the time then people go, oh, well, I've got a bunch of collections. I got this on my credit. I got that. And that's really where it's like, okay, we get a really good idea of where our numbers are going to be, but we still want to do the application so that we can then go and plug in the information that I've got and actually run some scenarios for them. So the more I can ask questions, the better scenarios I can run.
How many times do you have that upfront conversation, that 10, 15-minute conversation, asking them, you know, what they make, how much, you know, how long have they been there, stuff like that? Or, you know, do you know what your credit score is? I'm sure that might be a question that you ask. How many times do you find after they actually fill out the application that they, I don't want to say lied to you about something.
Don't fully disclose.
But, right.
Maybe like 15 to 20% of the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Not that, so it's not,
it's
that
not
bad.
like a 50% of the time deal.
Right.
No, most people are like, listen, dude, if I'm going to give you all of my information, I'm just going to give you all my information.
Right.
There are people that are like, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
This guy doesn't need to know about my alimony.
I forgot about that repo. You know, like, yeah, all that stuff pulls. So, you know, we do the 10, 15-minute conversation. We'll send them the link. If it's something where they're, you know, you can tell generally like, hey, what's your email address? I'm going to send you an email. And they're like, let me look it up. And you're like, we can do this over the phone. If you know, email is not your preferred method or online isn't your preferred method, some people just aren't tech savvy. Like,
right.
And I was trying to hook up a printer for 3 hours the other day. I get it, right? So what I'll do is I can go through and ask all of the questions on the app and actually do an application over the phone with them. And that really, it adds 5 to 10 minutes to the phone call.
Right.
It's super easy, super quick. Because at that point, I've already got some work history and everything. Those are questions I ask up front, so I can be filling that in because I've got that in my notes.
Right.
So just really making sure that we get a full history for the person and a complete picture is what I focus on. And, you know, when they do the application online, it's really easy because it prods, right? It says, okay, you were here for this long. We need 2 years. How long were you at your previous employer?
How many questions are on your application?
I think like 32.
32 questions.
Yeah.
So not very long.
Yeah, and it's all like a bunch of it is just click the answers, right? There's 13
multiple choice.
13 declarations where it's yes or no.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so are you a U.S. citizen? Yes, got it. So yeah, the application process, it you know, 10 to 15 minutes. You can request a soft pull versus a hard pull when we do your credit check, and that is helpful to a degree, right? So if you say, okay, yeah, Brian, you can, you know, do a soft pull, we're going to pull your TransUnion score. But the way that we develop a profile and run an approval is based off of a full tri-merge. We need the 3 scores, one for each of the bureaus, and we take the mid score. So the danger that you run into is, let's say I pull your TransUnion, you're at a 760 TransUnion. I'm like, oh, bro, you're good. We're qualified. And then I pull, you know, Experian and Equifax a month later, and there was 2 collections and 2 credit card 30-day lates, and actually our mid score now is, you might have a 760 on TransUnion, but between Experian and Equifax, we drop down to a 680. Our entire approvals changed. Mm-hmm. So it's like, and I don't want, the reason I don't want to do it is I don't want to have to go back to you and say, hey, we were wrong about something. Mm-hmm. Like, we thought you were going to have, you know, this type of an interest rate, this type of an approval. Here's actually where we're at. So we want to get the most, right, again, the most complete picture we can, so we can give you the best scenario. The other really cool thing about it, once we do have that application, we do the full pull, and why we want to do the tri-merge, the full credit pull. One, it's not going to mess up your credit. It's not like you're going to buy a used car and they're going to run your credit through 32 different lenders to find the best rate. It's run once. And, you know, because we're so heavily regulated by the federal government, it might affect you by a few points for a short period of time. Like, I've had people come back to me and say, hey, it dropped my credit. And they're like, what did it drop it to? A 641 from a 643. I'm like, okay, it'll be back up in a matter of a week. But we can go in and let's say you're at a 625 credit score. I have someone right now. It's right above a 600. And it's like, I can run a scenario and see how we get you to a 640. You pay off this credit card for $193. You go to a 640.
Yeah, so this thing that became fearful is now trying to help.
Yeah.
Exactly, dude.
Yeah, we use it as a tool, right?
Yeah.
Right. And that's what I kind of want to get across to anybody who's watching this is even if you don't think you're ready, but it's a goal of yours in the next 6 months, 12 months, something like that.
Year, 2 years.
You're questioning if you're ready or not. Yeah. Talking with Brian or talking with the lender, a lender like Brian, I don't want to put them all in the same boat because Brian is going to do that extra work. He's going to go that extra mile and be like, hey, here's what I'm seeing on your credit report. If you do this, this, and this, call me back in a month and I bet we're going to be closer to where we need to be for this monthly payment or this interest rate, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I do want to give a shout out to Brian too. What, because I'm probably pretty sure what the first one is. What's the second reason that you love the mortgage world?
What do you think the first one is?
Money.
I actually really love helping people. I mean, yeah, I've got a family to support and everything.
God,
but
it sounds so corny, dude.
I know, right? It's such a canned answer, but it's the truth. Like my borrower today was that closed was the teacher of the year in Lyon County, and when we first started talking, she was like, I don't know if I can. My first home was like $115,000. I don't think I can buy a home. Mm-hmm. And you go through and give them the tools and empower them so that it's like, okay, I know what I'm getting into. I can do this, and you get through the finish line where it's like, you have. There's a lot of work that goes into it, and it's the people that appreciate it. It makes you feel good at the end of the day, right? Like you can look yourself in the mirror and you're like, yeah, I'm doing all right.
Did we get the second reason?
That was the second.
That was the second.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because money was the first.
Yeah. I think my guess was solid. Unless you got anything else, Kyle, I was going to just say in closing, right? So the credit app isn't this scary thing, right? It's 32 questions, which are mostly multiple choice, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Right?
The hardest one's going to be putting in your previous addresses and your employers.
Mm-hmm. And right? Social?
Most people hopefully know that. But.
Well, no, I mean, I'm just talking about things that people are kind of.
Oh yeah, it's going to be all that fun stuff. Yeah, right. Completely secure site. You're not.
Yeah, so not fearful, right? Like not a scary thing. The reason I asked Brian why he likes this, is because this, we just went super in depth on this whole app process, right? It's 32 questions. Make sure you got somebody that's passionate, that's going to go to work for you, right? Not, that's why I asked you that question, because we know you really well. I want these guys to know you a little bit more too. Pretty simple deal to start.
Super simple.
Start the process and
Super
figure out where you're at.
Start the process, figure out where you're at, and figure out if you have stuff to do. What is that stuff? You could be spending your time spinning your wheels doing stuff that's not necessarily going to directly help you.
And you can be closer than you think. You can be closer than you think.
Now that you've listened to this, the questions to ask, right? Because I've talked to people that were like, oh, I talked to a lender 2 months ago, and they told me that I qualified for $300,000. I'm like, well, what'd they say your credit score was? Oh, they didn't tell me my credit score. Why would a lender not tell you your credit score?
Right.
Sometimes lenders are just like, here's the number, move on to the next one. And that's not what I want. I want educated buyers. I want people that have the ability to see everything and make the decision for themselves and actually enjoy the process.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So
Brian Brady, Cross Country Financial.
Holla at your boy.
His app will be in the description.
Thanks,
you
guys.
know it. Thanks.